Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
This is our Bad Sisters Season 2, Episode 6, reaction and review. We're now in a pretty perilous spot in this show's run where we don't have that many more episodes left, but it seems like the picture is starting to become clearer and clearer as to what may actually be going on here, question mark.
Da da da. Is Ian a Black Widower? I think he is. They've definitely been setting up something with him in this episode. And I think I have it all figured out. So we will definitely be getting into that as the video is going on. But what do you guys think coming out of this episode? Are you starting to feel like there's something not so wholesome about Ian's affection for Eva and that maybe he's using her for money?
Okay, here's where I'll say where I am right now, because I was totally floored when you brought up this Black Widower thing earlier. And it's just because I wasn't thinking this way, but not necessarily because I think it's wrong, because now that I'm starting to roll it around in my head and listening to you, I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that actually makes sense. That could be a big part of what's going on here. I think for me, when I was coming out of watching this episode, I was mostly just in this camp of, okay, I think Ian's lying about something. I think he's up to something, but I think a lot of us as viewers sometimes we want to have just sort of natural resistances to things. And I think my natural resistance to the idea of Ian being bad really throughout all of this season was, okay, JP was really, really bad in
Yes.
season 1. I don't want to imagine in my head this possibility where it's just like, okay, it's just every guy that Grace was with on this show is ultimately going to turn out to be a bad person or be doing the same thing as season 1 all over again. But ultimately, I kind of came to this realization of, Ian may be a bad person. Ian may be a Black Widower, but that doesn't make him the same as JP. Like, they're
No.
both bad people, but they're bad people doing very, very different things. It's just sort of like this show can be complicated that way.
Before we get too much further into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are in the middle of Apple Palooza.
There you go. There you go.
Palooza, where we are covering Bad Sisters. We are covering Before with Billy Crystal, which
Yeah.
is so good. And we are also covering Silo. We also have Severance coming up in January. There's so much great TV going on with Apple. And if you hit that subscribe button, you'll get all of our videos that come up every week of all the Apple shows we are covering.
It's a very good time. We love Apple here. Well, if you guys want to support us further, join our Patreon. We have a link in the description below, and we are covering exclusively there right now Dune Prophecy. We're also going to have some polls coming up for what we could be covering next, moving into the new year. There's a lot of exciting stuff. Thank you so much to our patrons for your support.
How am I agreeing with Houlihan?
Oh, no. That was a bad sign.
I know. Throughout this whole episode, I was just like, man, I agree with Houlihan. Ian is shifty.
Yeah.
Here I am on Houlihan Island. Even though I still don't love this character, she has been on To the Sisters, and she's been on Ian a little bit as well now, where she is figuring things out. I've just never liked her approach because she gives away too much, and a lot of times it just doesn't seem to get her anywhere, except everybody throws her out or is kind of frustrated. And she could have gotten answers faster if she had had a different approach, but she's here now, where this is my tinfoil hat with Ian. Let's get in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so remember back when Grace told Ian that she had killed JP and everything that happened, and he was like, okay, I need to leave. And she hit him in his back briefly, and he turned around, and there was a look on his face that made her look really worried for a second there. Then he disappeared for a couple days, and then Grace crashed her car. She had taken out this money and then crashed her car.
Yeah.
I think that Ian married Grace for the money. I think in that scene where she had like hit him in the back and he turned around, I think some of it started to come out. I think we're going to see that conversation of what happened at that time for her to decide to take out most of her money, hide it with the turtles, that she might have started to think or suspect that Ian was after her for her money. Then as she was driving and was like trying to call Eva and was like, oh man, I'm going to need help or whatever, I think Ian ran her off the road. And I think that he did kill her. And then he realized, uh-oh, Eva's actually the person who's the guardian of Grace's daughter, not me. And I'm not actually getting the money. The daughter's getting the money. So for me to get the money, I have to start up a relationship with Eva. And I think that in this episode, when they actually hook up and she's like, I have feelings for you, the minute that he sat down with her and was like, Eva, this isn't about grief, which is what I thought was happening. I thought these two were hooking up because of grief, which happens all the time. I think he's telling the truth. Now, this isn't about grief. It's about money. And it's just, I think he like goes around to different grief groups because that's how he met with Grace in the first place. Like they had joked that it was Angelica that was the grief thief that was there to take people's grief or use people's grief. But really it's Ian. And he was there using this grief to be able to connect with Grace, to get to Grace's money. But, he cacked it. And it ended up that Eva now has access to the money because here they are coming out of the bank after Ian's like, yeah, we should get some of that money together so we are able to help plan it out. It'll be all great or whatever. And they're all laughing coming out of the bank. I'm like, oh no. And that's where I think we are. He's a black widower after the money.
I think you're right at this point. I think there's just a lot of evidence towards this, and it's evidence that I did not want to see. And I think a lot of it also just comes down to this idea that Ian looks a little bit like Desmond from Lost, and I love Desmond from Lost, and I just think
he does.
I got suckered in because I was like, okay, here he is. He seems like a genuinely nice guy, good-looking guy.
He's a honey trap.
Yeah, he's there for the family. He seemed like the sort of guy I would want to be friends with. So I was just like, okay, man, you're really going through it. Grief does affect people. This is why you could be with Eva. There may just be something, well, maybe you guys can come out of this together, a happy family, X, Y, and Z. But then you start going through it, and then the wheels just start turning, and it's like, okay, well, he was away at the time in which Grace died, so that this would be a chance for him to sort of plot some things out, figure out.
With a friend that Houlihan can't get a hold of because he was never there.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of holes in that specific operation here. And if we're to take all of this a step further, I think it's even more easy to think at this point that, okay, it is Ian who is in the trunk at the start of this season, that eventually the sisters are going to figure this out. They're going to take out Ian, or something is going to happen with Ian, because as we've talked about, they don't seem to ever actually kill anyone themselves.
No, they don't. But I mean, even Angelica was on to him. I mean, he came and he threatened her, and she tried to warn the ladies on the boat. It was just like, something is wrong with Ian. Like, I don't know why you guys are trusting him. He's a problem. And she's right.
There's this meme out there of somebody saying, oh no, the worst person in the world just made a really good point. And I think that is very applicable to Angelica here. Like, Angelica's a terrible person. I don't think there's any way to get around that. She was mischievous, manipulative, like all of the above. But yeah, she might have been right about Ian. And ultimately, she's not there to tell the tale anymore. And the sisters, they're going to have to figure out a lot of this stuff on their own.
Yeah, and it seems like BB, who is my least favorite character on the show this season, easily. Like, I understand where she's coming from. A lot of people don't understand when people have died, something like Eva and Ian coming together, and they do react that way. It's not abnormal the way that BB is being very sharp-tongued towards Eva about it, and even Eva's like, oh, it's even worse than normal. Like, normally she's got a sharp tongue, but this is even abnormal for her. But it is very difficult to watch that happen. While it's perfectly normal that grieving people do get together, it's also perfectly normal that people who are on the outside that don't understand it, that are like, man, your sister just was buried and now you're hooking up with her husband. What is going on here? This is not okay. But she is starting to sniff around what's going on with Ian. She's like looking him up online. She's like, oh my God, it's so weird that he doesn't have social media. I was like, is it? I mean, yeah, lots of people have social media, but I know lots of people that don't. If I could be a ghost on social media, no one would ever hear from me again. I would absolutely never be on social media if I didn't need to be for work. I'm too private for that.
I'm weird when it comes to social media because there's a part of me that's just like, okay, this is a gigantic toxic dump and I don't want to deal with any
It's a
part of
time
it.
suck.
There is a time suck, but there, every now and then I stumble upon some great things, such as here is a picture of a cat along a beautiful serene river, or here's like,
Okay, that's true. I would have never discovered glass animals and how good they are if I wasn't on Twitter. Somebody just happened to
yeah,
post this music video of them like covering this song I really like, Say My Name. And I was like, who are these guys? Okay, but for that one gem,
yeah.
there's usually like just, yeah, a toxic dump of a material that I just wish I could unsee.
Well, here's the irony in all of this, because what we're saying here about social media and you discovering glass animals is kind of applicable to what's going on with BB, because I don't necessarily think that she's looking for anything that's necessarily going to actually give her the truth about what's going on here. I just think
No, he's not going to be on there posting pictures of
no,
like, look what I did in Grace's crashed
no.
up car.
No, and I think she's just doing all this because she's mad about Eva and Ian and that there's something going. But she's just getting lucky, I think, to an extent of stumbling into what could eventually be the truth because she's mad about this other thing. I don't know if she's really thinking about the money right now. But yeah, hey, look at this, BB. You are not a great person a lot of the time, as that's been documented, but you are very emotionally reactive and hot-headed. And I think for these particular sisters, sometimes this works to your advantage
Yes.
because there's not a lot of other people in this family that are going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, checking out somebody's social media, I mean, it's only going to give you so many answers, anyways. I mean, they're always
Yeah.
pretty curated of like, look how great my life is.
Yeah.
But, not being on social media is not really that weird. However,
Yeah.
having BB watch Eva and Ian laughing and walking out of the bank holding a folder, that definitely is something that would, raise my antenna where I'm just like, something is definitely not right now. Grace is dead. Now
Yep.
Ian is with my sister, and now they're coming out of the bank. None of that threads together well. I mean, BB going to Ian's place by herself didn't seem like the greatest idea, but I was kind of worried that she was going to get just straight tooken.
Okay, let's just be real here. BB has bad plans. Like, she's a terrible planner. She might be good at just like unknowingly stumbling into something
Mhm.
that might be true,
Yeah.
but think about this, or think about her being like, hey, Becca, let's break into Angelica's house and oh, I'm gonna take this rabbit. It's just like none of this is good, none of this is smart. I think she's just very, very impulsive, which is her own worst enemy in a lot of different ways. And I mean, the other big problem here is that Eva, at least on paper, is one of the most level-headed of the sisters. I
Mhm.
think she's very smart, but because she is close to Anne right now and her grief is affecting her and all this,
Yes.
like, BB could go to Eva and say X, Y, and Z, and then she's just going to be like, oh, you're overreacting. You're just not seeing it here. Why are you being like this? And I don't know how well it's going to go for her.
There was also some other really weird stuff with Ian at the beginning of this episode. Like, after everything that happened with Angelica, they didn't call anybody. They just got in the car and they drove over to Eva's house and was
Yeah.
like, this is what happened. Let's call the Coast Guard. And they really waited a long time. I mean, they boated back, they
Yeah.
drove to Eva's. I mean,
Yeah.
at that point, calling the Coast Guard, I feel like the Coast Guard would be like, why did you wait so long? This is not great.
Yeah.
But it's just at this point with Eva being like, listen, I went to Loftus. This is what happened while you were gone. Like, we really can't do it. Ian's really in there doing a lot where he's just like, okay, listen, I'm going to go check out the marina. I'm going to
Yeah.
go see if there's some cameras. Seemingly helping them to be like, okay, guys, there's this one person who's got like a Ring doorbell. So I'm going to try to see if I can get to that camera or whatever while you guys can go and clean up the boat. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Saint Ian. I really appreciate that. He goes in there and he gets this little like USB stick and sticks it in there. And he seemingly took the part of the file where Angelica was there. And while it looked like maybe he erased it from the drive, he has it. So that's not great. I felt like as soon as he took that and he had that little drive, I was
Yep.
like, okay, something's not right. If he's going to be taking that, then he's taking that to hold it over them.
See, I didn't think of that part when I was watching it, but that makes a lot of sense. The one thing
Why
I
are you
will
going to take that?
the thing that really I did think made What Little Hair I Have stand up was just this idea of how is Ian so good at this so fast? Like, how is he so
Ah,
capable of just being like,
yes.
hey, woman, I don't know. Let me ask about this camera that he knows to have a thumb drive, knows to like get the information. It was just felt like this is a level of skill for somebody who seemingly comes across as kind of like nice guy widower a lot of the rest of the time. And anybody who I see suddenly be that good at something right away, I'm just always going to be a little bit sort of surprised. It's like I'm a big video gamer, and sometimes, well, at least I used to play a lot of Super Smash Brothers, but
Mhm.
it'd be like me playing with somebody and they were like, oh, I've never really played this game before, but I'm going to go in and I give it a shot. And then they just knock me off the stage 3 times in 2 minutes. And I'm just going to be like, are you sure you've never played before? Because it seems like you know the entire move set. And it's just like, that's how Ian feels to me. He knows the entire move set when it comes to how to convince people to do whatever it is he wants.
Yeah. Even the lady who opened the door was like, oh, good looking men typically turn out to be problems.
Yeah.
And, I don't know that I can trust you. But then she's like, oh, but you good looking. So you can come on in and you can
Yeah.
fix my radiator. And it worked, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that he was down there first, because there's also Angelica's purse that was found there,
Yeah.
right? But then it's like, there's a set of car keys that were in there that didn't belong to Angelica's van, which was also there. And then you had BB down there looking for the right car, and she just gets into like, whose car? Like, it was so weird. But Ian was there, and he was there before them, and he could have easily gone onto that boat and placed those keys in that purse. He could have put the whole purse there.
I think the problem now, if you're BB, and this is where I do not have a lot of confidence in BB being able to pull this off, because, like I said, terrible at plans, but she clearly knows something is off with Ian. She has to, one, find a way to convince her other sisters of this, but then
Yeah.
two, hope and pray that nobody, tips Ian off as to what it is that they're doing. Because if it is his body that's in the trunk, the only way that I think this is going to work, because clearly he has a certain level of skill, is that you continue to hoodwink him and he doesn't see coming whatever it is you have planned for him. Whether it is you guys find a way to actually take him out yourself, or
Mhm.
you put him in some position where he's going to die on accident, and then you guys can have, like, I don't know, a little bit of not responsibility for it, but it's going to take a level of care. And I don't know if BB's capable of that.
Or maybe they're actually going to kill him, and that this will be the thing that moves these four sisters, if there's a next season, into a very different place. Because, yeah, so far they've been like bumbled their way through the first season. They're kind of
Yeah.
bumbling their way through this season. Wouldn't it be interesting if they actually did kill somebody this season and now they really have to carry that weight with them?
I think they would have a pretty good motive at this point where it's like, okay, you killed our sister. You
Yes.
also completely manipulated our other sister. You're
Yes.
trying to take all this money. You're trying to hurt Blannet. It is a lot. It is like one motive atop another motive atop another one.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder too about what Angelica's motives were, because she didn't trust Ian.
Yeah.
Ian did threaten her. She tried to warn them not to trust Ian. Is one of the reasons that she was trying to help out Grace's daughter as much as she was is because she saw that Eva and Ian were getting closer. Ian's a problem. So somebody does have to step in and help Grace's daughter out. That maybe it wasn't all just the worst and it wasn't all bad intentions,
I
because Fiona Shaw is a
Oh,
treasure.
okay. Now we're gonna talk about biases again. Me and Desmond look like
That's
Ian,
right.
you and Fiona Shaw, Angelica. No, I
No, she's not an angel, but it's possible that I mean, she's a nosy bee, right? So
yeah.
she may have just been really noticing that things aren't lining up. And because of that, Eva is the guardian of Blanid and is looking in the wrong direction of protecting her at that point.
Yeah, I don't think Angelica's the worst person to have ever existed. I think she is clearly bad in some ways. She's
Yes.
complicated. I think ultimately She wants attention. She wants to feel important. At times, she wants
Yeah.
money if the situation benefits her. But I think at this point, she's not necessarily as dark as I maybe thought a couple of episodes ago. Now, before we do wrap this up here, I have a message I want to send to Matt Claflin. Get your stuff together, man, because it feels like Becca still cares about you. And at this point, Becca, yes, she's made some mistakes. She's done some bad things. She's far from the worst of the Kirby sisters. Like, it seems like you guys could have some sort of relationship. She's being vulnerable with you. She's
Yeah.
telling you that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Just, dude, come on. I want to root for you guys.
I root for them. I think that Matt's gonna come around and that they will figure it out and they will raise that baby together. I mean, the show has a lot of darkness, but it has a lot of hope with it as well. I mean, look at Loftus. He decided not to take the money that he stole from Grace, even though it was going to be something that could help him keep his daughter. He still did the right thing, even though Houlihan was like, I'm telling. I'm like, oh, girl, just stop it.
I'm going to press a big red button and then I'm going to run away. Houlihan did a good job in this episode. Okay,
She did, but she didn't need to be all like, I'm telling. Like, he put the money, listen, he should have put it into evidence right away. He didn't, but he ended up doing the right thing. Everybody on this show is like that.
Houlihan is incredibly annoying. Like, I get the
Oh my
dislike of her for that very reason. I think really what it is that she's incredibly annoying in part because she thinks that she's Columbo. She thinks that she can go around to these different places, and before she leaves, you know, this is a really dated reference and doing a great job for our younger demographic. But at the end of every episode of Columbo, he's always like, I got one more thing before he goes and like actually accusing somebody.
Columbo. Is that what he sounds
And
like?
basically, he's got like this weird high pitched, like raspy accent. I can't do it great, but it feels like he always just lures people in. And then he's like, one more thing. And then he kind of drops everything. Houlihan thinks that she is this. She is not this. She is annoying, but I think she has some good instincts. And that's why maybe she's a little bit more of a threat than I made her out to be a couple of weeks ago.
I just feel that if Loftus got around to doing the right thing, then just let it be the right thing. You can pick your battles. Everything doesn't need to be the battle.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see where exactly that relationship goes moving forward, because it doesn't seem like it's going to a good place.
No, I mean, he's basically threatened her. She has threatened him. He has threatened her back. Yeah. I don't know where that's going to go from there. It may turn into nothing, and they're both like, okay, cool. We're both threatened each other. Now we're just going to move on.
I think we're set up now for a really interesting end of this season because, you know, if your Ian theory is right, which at this point I think that it is, we still have the question mark of how are the Garveys going to get from point A to point B. And sometimes like that is as compelling as the mystery itself, because a lot of the deck is stacked against them at this point. They're not going to want to believe BB and, you know, Ursula and Pekka. They have like their other stuff going on. I don't know how much they're going to be able to focus on this.
I just think with Ian having that little memory stick that shows Angelica getting on that boat. We saw Angelica float to the surface. I feel like she's going to be found. I feel like if he can't get the money the way that he planned to get the money, now that BB's on to him and BB's going to tell the rest of the sisters, they're all going to really look into it. Ian's plan is going to get foiled. That at that point, he's going to be like, if you don't just give me the money, then I'm taking what I have, this evidence, and I'm just telling. And then they're going to be up against it where it's like, okay, either we give him the money or maybe we just kill him.
I hope we get like a full plan that they orchestrate, because there's nothing I love more than watching people plan to commit terrible acts on screen.
He knows too much. He knows what Grace did. He knows that they covered it up. He knows everything, and he has evidence for it. He is the most dangerous person in their lives. And if anything is going to make the Garvey sisters actually kill somebody, it's this. I mean, he could do this to them for the rest of their lives. It could be like, okay, give me this money now, and then I'll see you in a couple of years, and we'll do it again, and then we'll do it again, and we'll do it again.
This is going to be fun, guys. We'll see exactly where this goes, but hit that subscribe button for now so you don't miss the rest of our Bad Sisters coverage. Also, Applepalooza continues to go here with Silo before. Also, Severance is coming next month. We are going to cover that, rest assured.
Yes.
And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description for exclusive Dune Prophecy videos. Thank you so much for everyone supporting us. We'll see you here next time.